Namaste, my friends, and welcome back home to the Trannabis kitchen here at the Los Angeles HQ. If you do not know, I am Chef Trannabis, aka Jamie London Wahlberg. My pronouns are he, him, and it is an honor to welcome you. And our special guest very soon is going to be Faerie Jane, aka Barbie Sommars, and I am so excited to talk about all things cannabis, the contributions that she has made to the cannabis community, and what she's doing now and beyond. And we are going to be making some fruit slabs infused mushroom patties. And we have a total setup here. We are bringing in a very special new element into the show, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But first and foremost, fruit slabs, if you do not know, are a kosher certified, vegan, organic, no sugars added, organic fruit leather that has cannabis and fruit. Comes in THC, CBD, and multiple flavors. We are working with the Mango Maui Wowie. We are doing a 5-to-1, which is going to be a 5-to-1 ratio of CBD to THC, 50 milligrams to 10 milligrams of THC. And we have a lot of goodies that are going into this very simple recipe. I channeled this from my guides a number of days ago, and I'm really looking forward to it because I actually haven't made a mushroom patty before. So what is going to be happening here? The first thing that's going to happen has already happened, which is ahead of time I needed to cook up 1 cup approximately of some tri-colored quinoa. And so I've had that sitting here, and I've put everything else out. So the next thing we're going to do is use this food processor, put in all of our veggies that we're going to chop up into chunks, and our mushrooms. So we have shiitake mushrooms. We have these white mushrooms that are like a parent to the baby white mushrooms. And then we've got baby bellas here, which are the baby portobello mushrooms. And we are going to take a red and green and yellow bell pepper. And then we are going to have a green zucchini. And we have some egg whites that are going in later, but ultimately that's all going in here with these spices. So we've got kosher salt. We have crushed black pepper, just about a pinch, couple shakes of each. We have also some green sweet peas that are going in. We have some ground turmeric as well as some ground cumin. We have some kosher salt. We have some baby rainbow carrots. We have some ground ginger. And we have some ground paprika as well. And don't worry about doing close-ups. You'll see more later. And I'm going to also post pictures and videos so you can really get up close and see what things look like. We're going to be using a gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free. These are English muffins because I couldn't manage to get buns that handle all my allergens. And ultimately, all the spices and the veggies and everything go in here. Crunch, crunch, crunch. We're food processing that until it is basically a grain of like a sort of like a meal. Then we're going to add in our egg whites to help combine, as well as our cheese. Then we're going to mix it in with our grain here and our quinoa, and then we are going to form them into patties. We're going to saute it, and we are going to put our slabs on, melt it, put it on a bun, and call it a day. So we've got a little bit of olive oil that we're going to use that with. Before we move any further, and welcome from Brian, we are going to come into our connection, our prayer, whatever resonates with you, with our food and our plant spirit. And also what we are adding is over the weekend, I was attuned in Holy Fire Reiki 3, levels 1 and 2. And so I've placed and sent beautiful Reiki of the intentions of unconditional love and healing and protection, and everything going smoothly and fun to the show, to all of you. And the audience that choose to come into the space, you're going to be able to experience that Reiki, and we're sending it as well. And I've sent it over to the food and to the cannabis, but we are just going to take a moment to have our connection, send a little bit more of a blast of energy healing. For those who don't know, that is what I'm doing, and we're going to send a connection that is super energetic, and then bring on our special guest, hopefully very soon. Thank you so much, Divine Team, and the Reiki Energy for being here. Thank you so much to Fruit Slabs for sponsoring, and Barbie Sommars for joining me. Thank you so much to all who've come together, as well as Gaia, to bring all of these vegetables and fungi and plant medicines into our life, into the daily moment, and into the present now, sending love and healing and joy, abundance to everyone. Let's read. That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing me in this moment. You are in divine timing, Faerie Jane. We just need to get you onto the other device. So once I see you backstage with the third-party link that I sent you, that is when I will bring you on. So in the meantime, while we are waiting for our special guest to get onto the other network, we are going to get started with our keys, which is good because actually Faerie Jane probably has the chickpeas that I did not manage to get. So it's going to be a good step while we wait for her. So what we have here is a small pot with just a little bit of water. I'm talking about maybe about 1.5 centimeters of water that is in here. And we're doing that because these are frozen peas. So they're already cooked. They've been defrosting. And so we are just needing to cook them just a little bit. And remember, because we are going to be sauteing our patties, we didn't cook everything through. So a lot of these things are raw and are going to cook pretty quickly, especially once they are in a ground meal. The quinoa is only half cooked through. It's basically al dente right now. I like to use a tricolor. And that is going to mean that we're not going to have such like a mushy experience come the end of this. So we're going to turn up the heat here. Starting to pop up. So once it starts to kind of simmer up and boil is when we're going to put these in. Let's see here, just to make sure that my guest gets on. Barbie, did you see the link that I sent you for the third party? I like to bring on both screens at the same exact time. So if you just copy that link and or open it whatever device, then you'll be able to click on it, put your name. No, because I sent it to your text about a half hour ago. It says join the stream. I didn't send it to email, it's to your text, because you were seemingly very busy with your email. So I've sent them all to your text. So if you just go to your phone, there should be a text that says join stream. Yeah, I see that you read it now. Cool. So if you click on that from your second device and you come up on stage, then I'll be able to bring you on. So we've got this boiling now. We're going to put in about 3/4 cup of our frozen peas here. And you'll notice the boil stopped pretty much right away because again, these were frozen, so they're pretty cold. And we're really just looking to predominantly defrost them. We're really not going to cook them for very long at all. So we're going to put our oil aside. We're going to put our slabs aside. Okay, so hopefully we should have Faerie Jane on very, very soon. And in the meantime, we're going to start with our mushrooms. So as we have these 3 types of mushrooms, most of them I already cleaned up, but I wanted to show you how you actually clean some mushrooms. So what you're going to want to do is if you have organic mushrooms that really just came out of the dirt, they're going to be dirty. But the thing is with mushrooms is, of course, they are sponge, right? So we don't want to, they have enough water that they hold on to. We don't actually want them to have a lot of water. So what I like to do is dampen some paper towel, and then there's a couple that I left here to do this with. Okay, so I like to take just to the top of the caps, really all you need, so you can hold on to the stem, which helps. And you're going to take your dampened paper towel and you're going to simply rub it over the top here. And even though it may look super, super clean, you'll notice that, see, you've got some dirt here. So there is dirt that accumulates on the cap. And then once you do that, you're going to want to take out your stem. So with the little ones, you're going to pinch here. You can just literally put your fingers, insert them right under the cap there, and you're just going to hear a little click, do a little twist. Namaste, Artistic Hand Mom. And then that is ready to be, quartered and ready to go. We've got one of our shiitake, which I also left to show you since that's a bigger one. So again, this is a different type of stem. Here she is. We're going to bring her in a second. And you just wipe it down. You don't have to be so ridiculously, gentle in order to do that. Okay, so you're going to take, with this type of stem, you're going to bend back and you're going to snap off. I'm going to bring it on right here. Namaste, my friend. How are you doing?
Namaste.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I'm sorry. I was just chopping things and I lost track of time.
You're totally fine. Don't even worry about it. I'm so happy that you're here. I'm so excited that you've decided to take on this recipe with me, and I'm just so honored. I can't wait to hear what you're up to and let everyone know who you are. So without further ado, would you please, I like to give create a space for my guests to actually share who they are. So would you please share with everyone, who is the Faerie Jane? What is it that you have been doing in the cannabis industry as you've given so many beautiful gifts to the industry?
Oh, thank you, Jamie. Well, I didn't really intend to be in the industry, but I've been a fan of natural medicine and plant medicine in particular for quite some time. And that journey began with me trying to find natural ways, natural remedies for chronic pain management. And through that, I educated myself. I became quite an advocate and an activist in my local community. I lived in Long Beach at the time. And then I wanted to share my knowledge with people. And I was once upon a time the co-founder of a Women Grow chapter. So we encouraged and empowered women to take leadership roles in the cannabis industry. And we also provided a place for the budding entrepreneurs of this new industry to meet and network with each other. So that was really exciting. That grew into being a co-founder of Mary Jane University, where we did in-home cannabis education, kind of like the Tupperware parties, but with cannabis. And I also co-founded High Dining, which is a upscale, low-dose fine dining experience company. And we have several offerings there. The Movable Feast is probably one of the more well-known experiences. And we also have the Sushi and Doobie Rolling Workshop. So there we work with food and cannabis and really use cannabis and these experiences as a vehicle to educate people about this beautiful plant. And it's not always about the high in the kitchen, as you know. It's also about your health. And we're big advocates of raw cannabis as well as hemp, and just educating people on the differences between, say, a CBD isolate, a full spectrum product. And we love to highlight some of our favorite brands and highlight small farmers. I work with a lot of small farms in the Emerald Triangle. And then that brings me to Faerie Jane, which is a character that I use to entertain and educate people about cannabis. I say cannabis gives me wings. So here you can see my wings.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. And yes, we are definitely going to be diving in, especially to the Moonlit Feast, which I like really hope that you bring back because I need to experience
Oh,
it
yes.
after everything that I've heard.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you're joining me in this process. So I want to make sure that I am supporting you in how to put these patties together, even though I gave you, an idea of how to do that. And then we can dive in. I would love for you to share with everyone your cannabis story. Um, but right now, we're just chopping our vegetables and our fungi, and we are putting it into our food processor or our blender, whichever you're using, and then tossing in our spices. Super, super easy. So,
Awesome.
what is your cannabis story?
Oh, I was diagnosed with a condition with my bladder. It's called interstitial cystitis, and it's exacerbated by stress. Um, I used to have a very stressful corporate job, and it's there that I really started to research what kinds of natural remedies could help me, because I didn't want to use the prescription drugs that they were providing me. And I also didn't want to just use opioids for my pain management. So I really didn't really begin my cannabis journey as far as like using cannabis on a real regular basis until I was in my mid 30s. And I just, when I saw the beauty of it, I just couldn't believe how vilified it was. And I became quite the activist in my community. So I just kept on learning more and exploring more and sharing the knowledge. I mean, that's really my own personal journey, and that's why I just wanted to share it with everyone else too, because I feel like we need to free this plant.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that it's impacting.
Oh, definitely, on so many levels. I mean, when you really learn the true story of why cannabis has been so vilified, politically, it's not even really about cannabis. It's about hemp, it's about industry, it's about racism, and this poor plant is taking the hit for so many things that it really isn't guilty of, let's say. I think cannabis is the queen of the plant kingdom, and she needs to be brought back to that status. So I also sometimes reference cannabis as a female spirit, and I really think that there is a spirit, and that's why I think it is so important where you get your cannabis from, who grew it, what intention they grew it with. And I do want to support small farmers. I think it's so important. I mean, here we are working with food, and we want our food to be organic. We should have the same standards, for our cannabis. Plus, you want to support those small farmers that really know what they're doing, and they're not in it just for the quick buck.
I completely agree. I mean, I remember the first time that we got on the phone and you shared this story, and I was like, yes, oh my God, we have so much in common. I really, really resonate with you. So I'm really happy that you felt comfortable sharing, because I think it's so, so important. And I feel like this has been coming up on the show a lot lately. A lot of people agree that the patients are kind of getting lost,
Yes.
left behind in this whole journey. So I look forward to talking further about that as well. How does this tie in to your food journey? How would you describe your food journey? Because I love seeing how they do or don't connect the cannabis and food journeys.
Well, I think food is, it's like a universal language, right? We all eat. And I think food and these dining experiences that we produce at high dining are a beautiful vehicle for that education. So I say that our dinner parties are infused with cannabis and education. And we make education fun and not like a lecture. For example, at the Moonlit Movable Feast, we have Dr. Jeffrey Raber as a guest. And you could be sitting down next to him, You never know who's going to be at these parties, by the way. I plant certain people, and you're going to be a guest one day too. So at a future Moonlit Movable Feast, everybody, you might sit down next to Jamie. And so there's those kinds of natural interactions you might happen. And I do keep these intimate. They're never more than 50 people. So you can have spontaneous conversations with our special guests, but there might be certain ones. I try not to have too much talking going on. I want people to be on their own journey and their own experience. But for example, Dr. Jeffrey Raber will be available usually around the Mary Jane University Education Station and talk about terpenes. He's one of the leading scientists on terpenes. He's a well-known biochemist. Or you might talk to the Dank Duchess, and she we hold a chillum ceremony and teach you about enjoying cannabis in a more intentional way. It's not about just sitting down and getting high. It's about setting intention before you smoke this sacred herb and really focusing on maybe your dreams or desires. And some people that are new to cannabis have all kinds of basic questions as well. Like we love to have a smoke circle, and people can learn how to sit in a smoke circle. Do you really pass the doochie on the left-hand side? Where do I blow my smoke? How do I smoke without, well, you know, COVID has changed this, but there's also little techniques. Like, for example, you know what, I'm actually not infusing my patties tonight, but I'm going to just smoke a little bit of joint right now. This is Farmer and the Felon.
Ooh.
But, you know, there's ways to just wrap your hand around the joint and just suck there, and then you're not actually touching the joint with your lips. That is a more, you know, sanitary way. But of course, now, like I said, COVID has changed that. Mini joints are so popular. Yes.
You just blew, literally, I feel like you just blew my mind. I had never actually thought about that, but yes. So speaking of like with COVID, I can imagine that with a lot of the things that you do that pivots things quite a bit. And I'm curious also for you to dive in. Like, I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily worried about canna culture in terms of the community aspect that one used to be able to get pre-COVID. However, I haven't exactly thought myself, at least, of like, oh, this is the idea that's going to help us to have that feeling again. Do you feel like there's something, do you have a master plan of how to have people feel like they are really in that community spirit without that sharing, which was so integral to cannabis prior to COVID?
It sure is. I mean, well, with regards to sharing joints with people, I just suggest everybody make miniature joint. And I like at my dinner parties, everyone to, I ask them to not bring outside medicine because I want everyone on the same journey. I actually have one of the brands here that I really love to highlight, Arcana Flowers. And they are an umbrella brand. They're out of Mendocino. And they have a lot of biodynamic farms. And some of them are Dragonfly Earth Medicine certified farms. It's really some of the cleanest medicine you can enjoy. So if you're not sharing joints with someone, I guess during COVID, we shouldn't recommend anyone share joints unless you're actually making out with each other on a regular basis or something like that, or at least sharing air with each other. Otherwise, just make yourself a little tiny joint and you can all be on the same journey. And I really think it's important that everyone travels on the same journey. And I actually have the grower present at the Moonlit Movable Feast. Just like you like to connect with your growers at the farmer's market, I want people to have that same feeling and connect to their cannabis grower and really see the person that grew your medicine. And then we all do our sacrament at the same time. Everyone gets a gorgeous pipe. Everyone gets an eighth. Now, we don't expect you to smoke the whole eighth, but we want you to take this home and remember us. And we've also usually taught you about terpenes at our events and creating scent memories. I mean, how many of us, you know, you might smell something and it takes you all the way back to your grandmother's kitchen when you were a child. You can create a scent memory with cannabis because we all know about terpenes. And if we don't yet, I advise you to go ahead and Google that. terpenes are what are responsible for the various effects you feel from cannabis. As we know, not all strains are alike. And even the word strain is actually antiquated language, although I don't expect we will stop using that word anytime soon. Cultivar is really the more appropriate.
Is it?
So far ahead of me, I've been talking. I have some of my ingredients chopped up.
You're doing well. You're doing well. I'm like trying to keep
and
it
I
quiet.
overcooked my quinoa.
You overcook the quinoa? It's
Yeah.
going to be okay. It's going to be okay if you overcook the quinoa, because what you can do is just cook it, have it just get a little bit more crispy, and it'll make up. It'll probably dry it. And I would just say maybe even use like a lot less olive oil than you perhaps would, and it'll be totally fine. It'll be totally fine. But yeah, it is going to get loud for a moment, but everyone else will be able to hear you because I have my AirPods in. So I love that. It helps me to feel optimistic, and it just makes me even that much more eager to be at, you know, Moonlight Feast and anything else that you put on. Can you talk a little bit about how Moonlight Feast came to be? Where did the genesis of the idea, when people experience it, what are like some of the highlights that you like to share? And what is like the favorite comment that someone has made to you about how it made them feel to be there? Because I have heard from so many people about this event. Like I've never had anybody tell me about that event and then say that they had a other event that they liked more than your Moonlight Feast. I think that's a big deal.
It is. I must say, I've heard that too. People say that their favorite event, like Brian Applegard, for example, founder of the Cannabis Tourism International, he says Moonlight Movable Feast is still his favorite event, and I know he's been to many, so that is quite a compliment. I would say the inspiration began with the desert, which is where I live. I live in the Joshua Tree area. I'm actually speaking to you right now from the city of Joshua Tree. I'm at my friend Jessica's house. Some of us in the cannabis industry here remember the Emerald Exchange.
Sure.
Jessica is one of the producers of the Emerald Exchange. And she has the perfect kitchen because I can cook and talk to you guys at the same time, even though I'm not cooking right now. But anyhow, back to the desert and the inspiration for Moonlight Movable Feast. I just wanted to share this environment that I love so much and I find so inspirational and even more beautiful when you have a little bit of cannabis. I wanted to share this with everyone. I love how we are a dark sky zone. So when there's a full moon, it's literally so bright. You really do see your moon shadow. And the Moonlight Movable Feast can only take place a couple of times a year because I have to wait for a full moon, a Saturday night, and nice weather. So it can be very cold in the wintertime and very hot in the summertime. So that really leaves us with spring and fall. And we've had some really beautiful Moonlight Movable Feasts here in the past. We've had 5 so far. And I'm getting all kinds of requests, Jamie. I will be doing another one. I've just been sort of waiting for COVID to be a distant memory. I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon, but it seems like many are relaxing. And as an event producer, I've spoken on many panels and people always ask, how are we going to deal with COVID? How are we going to continue events? And I do think it's possible. You know, it's all up to us. It's our personal choice if we want to come out and socialize. And I also like the idea of rapid tests that becoming more available and more affordable. And I really think that's the only true way. But then again, you know, someone can still test positive but not be contagious. It is.
It's
but we
so
are available
tricky.
for private experiences for sure. But the public experiences are tricky. I think it's just going to be kind of enter at your own risk, which is kind of how life is anyway. And if you're feeling sick, we ask you don't. But I really do think that we will employ this new technology of the rapid test. I think it's really great that these are available.
I agree. They're definitely a great way to go. At least here in LA, they're getting really difficult to get a hold of. But I know that is changing. There's many different ways that this is all coming to be, and I'm hopeful. I have to.
Yes. Yeah, we
I
can't
have to.
stop gathering. I mean, that is what is to be human, is to connect with one another. And I love connecting over cannabis.
Me too. What is your favorite strain or cultivar?
Yeah. I like different strains for different things. Okay, so I love blue strains. I think that's good pretty much every time. I love train red.
Ooh. You can take a potency there with train wreck.
Yeah. And I also love little capsules too. Absolute Extracts makes those little capsules that are 5-10 milligrams. I accidentally took a 50 milligram one. I accidentally overdosed my man and I one time with Habit, those Habit beverages. Mm-hmm. So I thought the state law changed, so it was the serving size is 10 milligrams, but I guess that as a beverage was excluded from that regulation. I don't know. I just assumed the whole thing was 10 milligrams and I split it amongst us. It was actually 100 milligrams, so we each had 50 milligrams. And we had a really lovely journey, and it lasted several hours. I'm so glad we didn't have plans that day. So there's the unexpected gifts of cannabis too. Sometimes you don't know how potent a strain will be. But as an educator, I always say, start low, go slow, especially with edibles, which is why at the Moonlight Movable Feast and all of our high dining productions, we never do more than 10 milligrams. We have plenty of smokables. I don't really care how much people smoke at the parties. And we have all kinds of methods of smoking it. I usually don't do concentrates at these parties, although I do dream of doing a high-end concentrate event at an art gallery with beautiful glass from some well-known galleries. And we always featured glass blowing too at the Moonlight Movable Feast, because many of our guests have never seen that actually live with their own eyes. So there's all kinds of things going on. It's the dinner is really the event within the event. And we open with sound healing. I usually have Linda Arnold. She's a really talented sound healer. And when people drive in from Los Angeles, they kind of got city vibes on them still. And I feel like the sound healing just sort of washes that all off and prepares them for the journey, which I say it's a feast for the senses and a journey for the soul.
I love that.
I didn't answer you. You asked me something about the favorite compliments I've received. I would say the most common word that is used about that production, magical. Some have said it's life-changing. Like something shifts in people, and I can't take all the credit. I give cannabis, I give the desert, beautiful full moon. It's just a lovely credit.
You get a lot of credit. You get a lot of credit because, and people have said that to me. They've said that it was life-changing and described it as magical. And basically, what happens is they go on a beautiful rant about the things that happen, but basically they can't even finish a sentence because so much is going on and they had so much that they experienced. And I can tell when they're sharing it that they're going mentally and emotionally back to that place. And that's a brainchild that, that I personally, I perceive something like that to be truly divine and channeled in. Really received from the guides. It's amazing, and I can't wait to experience. So I know that things have changed quite a bit for you. What's happening for you now? What are you working on? You said you were excited to share a project. Or is that a title project?
Well, it's not cannabis related, but I do hope that as cannabis becomes more widely accepted, I do hope that worlds will converge. I love music and I love Mary Jane, and I really love the connection between the two. And I am working at a music venue here in the high desert area right now. It's called Olivar. And actually, our director was one of our, well, I don't know if he's still on here, Clark. Um, he's a wonderful visionary, and I really feel aligned with this company. And it doesn't feel like work when you're passionate about it. So I hope that one day music venues can allow openly cannabis use. Of course, most of us who smoke cannabis do it on the down low at these events. And one day we'll be able to be out in the open, you know, probably out on the smoking patio with all the smokers. But it won't be, you won't have to hide it anymore. And it's such a beautiful thing. I just hate hiding it, you know?
I hate it too. It's uncomfortable, you know, and having like growing up in New York, you know, it was like mind melting when I got here 5 years ago, and I was just like, whoa, this is an entirely different environment.
Yeah.
And then it felt weird when I like first got back to New York and visited, and I was like, this feels kind of strange because I like feel like smoking just on the street and people aren't, but it's all changing now. What do you think are going to be the biggest changes coming up in 2022 for cannabis? And hopefully there are some positive ones.
I mean, legislatively, I don't expect too much change, really. I know that there is, we're in California, I'll just say. I mean, there might be some people listening from all over. But in California, there is some legislation that will allow, for example, cannabis use where there is an ABC license, which is a liquor license. Currently, that is not allowed. If you were to try to do both, you could lose your liquor license. That's unfortunate. I'm hoping that change happens. There's other legislation that's going on that's pretty exciting too, that's not necessarily cannabis focused, but I feel like it's mind expansion related, which I think is something that we must talk about when we talk about cannabis. I think it's heart opening. I think it's mind opening. And we have a bill going through legislature right now that will allow the legalization of mushrooms and LSD, MDMA. Ketamine was on the bill, but it was removed. But that just shows you that there's some progression here. And civil liberty is a phrase that you will hear a lot in the psychedelic community. And I think that we should have the right to do whatever substance we choose to do. Now, along with that, people get alarmed, but along with that, we should have education and treatment programs available. Right now, if you have an addiction, it's pretty hard to get a bed at a rehab facility. And there's those that have a lot of money, those ones are probably easier to get into. But if you're not a rich person, you're not going to go to one of those rich rehab places. So what does legislature do? They incarcerate, which I really don't think helps matters, right? It doesn't help somebody with their addiction. It doesn't give them the education or the resources to get over the addiction. All it does is give them a record, and then it's hard for them to get a job or even vote. So it's a very flawed system. The war on the drug is very flawed. So as you can see, the activist in me is coming out. I just think that we should have the right to choose. And plus, I mean, cannabis in particular, keeping down such a beautiful medicine that is helping children with seizures. It's even helping the elderly with dementia. I mean, no matter what age you are, it seems like cannabis can do something for you. And if you don't want to get high, that's okay. You can still enjoy the benefits of cannabis without getting high. It does not need to be vilified. And there's just so much brainwashing that we are still overcoming. You know, from the Reefer Madness days and our more recent war on drugs, it's just there's a lot of propaganda. Meanwhile, the government themselves hold a patent on CBD before CBD was legal. I think a lot of people don't know that. Talk about hypocrisy.
They don't. They definitely don't.
Yeah, they knew. And then you have somebody like Jeff Sessions going, they're bad people. Well, then are you guys bad people too then? Because you guys have a patent on it. And you know damn well that it's good as an antioxidant and a neuroprotectant. That's what it says in the patent. So anyhow, I'm here to let people know that don't always believe the government. They most definitely lie on certain issues.
Many issues.
I'm being
personally.
Yeah.
You're being kind. You know me. I'm going to be real. I'm just going to spell it out. Speaking of major news and things like that, yesterday was, I don't know if it came out yesterday, but I know yesterday was when everyone started talking about it. The study that came out showing that cannabis has been proven to help cure COVID, which I lived, and I can attest to how much it helped me stay out of the hospital. As an immunocompromised person, I was pretty sure that the hospital was where I was going to end up, especially with how bad I was. I changed and upped my CBD, CBG tincture, as well as THC, and started to be more conscious about using strains. And let me tell you, even with how sick I was, my lungs, they said when I got there to the urgent care, were clear. And I have asthma. They couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. That's cannabis. And so the fact that the study came out, for those who don't know, a study came out saying that cannabis can actually help to cure and prevent COVID. It's like, it was like Christmas morning to get that study out. How have you seen it? What are you thinking about it? Do you think this is like a good thing, for us, that this is going to get publicity, this study?
They say if cannabis was found in the rainforest today, it would be a wildly popular medicine. But because we have that history of it being vilified and linked to racism and corporate profit and lots of bad things, I just can't wait for people to really understand all the various cannabinoids. It's not all about CBD. We're still discovering new cannabinoids too. And I remember there was a company in Canada, I think a laboratory in Canada, that early on in COVID, they were saying that they were having some positive results with it being an antiviral, which many of the properties, there's terpenes, there's the cannabinoids, the terpenes, and the flavonoids. There's all kinds of phytochemicals in this plant. And we are learning about all of them individually, as well as how they work synergistically. And I'm a fan of whole plant medicine, as you know. So that's what I mean about that synergy. It's called the entourage effect. And so when you're just taking a CBD isolate, meaning like a CBD only tincture, for example, out there, like many people are, they're buying the ones just like over the market. I don't trust most of those. And I believe this plant is meant to work as it is in nature, meaning all those cannabinoids. And I think where we'll end up is somewhere in between, right? Because obviously science is going to step this up to a new level. And we're going to learn so much about these cannabinoids. Pharmaceutical companies are already filing patents with existing medications combined with certain cannabinoids. So you're going to go there too. I saw you had Chef Sebastian on.
Yes, I did.
And, he was talking about how Monsanto has patented or certain strains, right? What did you say, like over 600?
Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah. And so that's happening, people. And that's why you got to fight for the rights of this small farmer, right? Because these guys are also the breeders. And these guys, without laboratory equipment, it's a lot of anecdotal evidence, they're experts themselves, but, before we knew what cannabinoid was good for what, these guys knew that. There's so much knowledge. That's the interesting thing. I'm loving the convergence of these OGs with all of that knowledge and then what the laboratories have. Look at what you've made.
I'm just showing, I don't want to interrupt, but I just want to show that these are what the patties look like. So they're softer than I thought they would be, but they're going to work.
They are beautiful.
But continue.
Yeah, I'm not making mine at all. But my friend Jessica made her own.
So
maybe she'll share it with me. she's watching.
I'm glad that we get to just chat. Sometimes that's nice. Yeah, it's there's so much going on. There's so much to be both excited and pissed off about. And I mean, last week I had the honor of having Kristen Yoder on, who I absolutely adore, who dropped every truth bomb.
I love her too.
You really just, through that lens, of course, understand truly how much we're up against effectively. And this is a plant that is, I experience to be spiritual, regardless of how anybody feels about it. It is a plant. It grew in the ground on the planet that we live on, and we're all arguing over who gets to have it. And we've made it so difficult that people who need it most can't access it, and the rest of people are ending up wrongly imprisoned, especially with non-violent offenses.
Yeah,
we have a long way to go.
Plant. Yeah, well, that's why I'm always an advocate of grow it yourself. Be curious about this plant. A lot of dispensaries sell clones for $15. Make this plant your companion. You don't have to be a superstar grower. You can even use cannabis as a house plant. And there, when I talk about the spirit of Mary Jane, you can just have her right there in your house with you. Sorry.
You know how I feel about that.
Yeah. Do you have a plant? Have you tried to grow?
I've grown a couple of times. The last time that I grew was pretty traumatic. So envision this. It is like my third grow ever. My ladies are beautiful and healthy, and I'm talking and singing to them and obsessing over them every given moment. And they're about to harvest, and it's like the first time where I've had like real, buds growing. I can see the trichomes, and I'm like, I did it. Fast forward, somehow, mites ended up somehow getting in, and it got worse by them making my cat sick, and they took over, and I ended up with a massive infestation that cost thousands of dollars to fix. I lost all my plants, and thankfully my cats are safe, but it took months to actually deal with that, and I just haven't stomached doing it since. I will again. I know I will.
I'm glad you did.
But that was a lot.
I'm sorry you didn't have a beautiful experience. I trust you will in the future. That sounds like crazy, and I'm so glad your cats are okay. I never knew you had cats. I have 2 cats.
I do. I have 2. I do. I'm surprised, actually, both of them are asleep. 99% of my shows are interrupted, usually by my boy cat screaming at the top of his lungs that he wants attention. And I'm like, Dad's doing a show right now. Yeah, there's some episodes that they're in. I'm interested, so especially animals. Like, animals also have the endocannabinoid system.
They do.
And well, do you have the need or choose to give your cats CBD?
You know what I have given, because I'm a full spectrum girl. I have given them Awakened Topicals, which is a raw cannabis tincture in olive oil. So that's raw. You talk about the benefit of cannabinoids. You cannot get more cannabinoids than by consuming raw cannabis. So usually people light cannabis on fire or heat it up and put it in edibles and whatnot because they want the THC. And THC is a beautiful cannabinoid, but sometimes you don't want a whole lot of it. It can actually even exacerbate anxiety. So, and maybe not so good for people that have trouble sleeping, possibly, you just have to try. We're all different. That's the thing too. There's so many variances in cannabis, but also inside our own bodies. We're genetically different from one another. So if a strain doesn't work for you, I really encourage you to try another strain. Try 10, unless you're just having a really adverse reaction, but don't just write off all cannabis as the same, which I come across a lot of people that feel that way. And I just figure I'll come back around when they want. But anyhow, back to raw cannabis. Yes, you can get full spectrum. And when it's raw, it also has the other phytochemicals as well. So you're getting your terpenes and your flavonoids. And your cats would love it. I mean, I don't know how old your cats are. I was giving mine to an older cat that was diagnosed with cancer.
Poor baby. They're on the younger side, but regardless of that, both of them, when I adopted them, they had tummy issues, and then my little princess Amy, she is like 6 maybe years old, and she already started to have kidney failure, and I'm like,
Oh.
absolutely not. I'm giving her Reiki, and I tried giving them a whole bunch of tinctures and things, and they were not having it. So I need to get that one from you, the name of that, and see if I can get that to work. Like, they're so smart. I mean, you know how cats are, and they're picky. Like, I tried putting in their food. I tried hiding it. I mean, it's like they eat around it or they just protest.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that
Well,
works because I used to give them a chew.
This, I'm not gonna lie, this does taste pretty weedy because it's raw. But there are a couple of other flavors now too. But I don't think I wouldn't use the flavored ones with the cats. Like he does orange and cinnamon one. I think it's orange. That's my favorite one right now, and that's kind of new. So the line is called Awakened Topicals.
Awakened Topicals.
Yeah,
I'm definitely
for the raw cannabis products. So hey, same thing with your skin. You're not trying to get high from your topicals, are you?
No, not personally.
Yeah, so the THC is actually not even as effective as the raw acidic precursor of THC, meaning before you light it on fire. THCA, the acidic cannabinoid. It's the precursor to THC, and it is a very powerful compound, as well as CBDA, which is the acidic precursor to CBD. So if you're consuming on the raw side, oh my goodness, there's just nothing more healthier you can do in the cannabis world. I think raw cannabis is the next superfood. Hey, we should do a cooking show on raw cannabis.
I would love to do that. I would love to do that. I'm a firm believer as well, and especially with the terpenes. That changed everything for me. Once I started to understand what terpenes I needed and sort of somewhat of the amounts of it, it's like life altering.
So are you supplementing with terpenes, isolated terpenes in your food or otherwise?
I haven't been, but you're not the first to mention that. So now I definitely need to start thinking about that.
Yeah. I mean, if you notice a difference,
first.
you're really going to notice it if you start to incorporate it in other ways too. I even like to put terpenes in my diffuser at home.
I feel silly saying this, but we can do that.
Yeah. Just like you put essential oils, put your terps in there.
Wow. So then hypothetically breathing that in, it's like, can it give, I mean, it's going to change the compounds a little bit, right? So it's like the benefit of that. So for example, like me having asthma, I put it in and then I'm like sitting over it, breathing the vapor. Am I going to have the experience of the terpene?
Well, now you're talking aromatherapy.
Yeah.
And, there's various, some people don't even believe in it, but I do believe it. I mean, there's a reason why lavender is so popular in soaps and in diffusers and in massage oils and candles, because it's relaxing. So yes, these terpenes, it is believed that they can alter your moods, but I'm not an essential oils expert, but I do know some, and wow, there's a lot of power in these essential oils, and if you figure out the right combination for what you need, it's beautiful, whether you're applying it topically or ingesting it or inhaling it through your diffuser.
I'm now deeply invested. I need to try this myself.
Yeah, terps are the hottest cocktail ingredient these days too.
I believe it. I believe that immensely. And I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, as a chef, I'm just like thrilled. You know, like people say, like, what's your favorite, you know, ingredient? Cannabis. Because cannabis, you can do so many things with it. It's medicinal, as the food is medicinal. As you said, it's spiritual. You know, I have a deep spiritual connection to it. I also refer to it, you know, as the divine feminine plant spirit. I communicate, I pray with it, connect with it. I've started sending Reiki to my cannabis before I use it, and that's mind blowing. The first time I ever did that, it literally felt like it was moving my hand.
Wow.
Like I just took a pre-roll that I created for myself, and it was just like the energy was huge.
I'm gonna try that. I saw that
Highly
you
recommend.
did that just on your last episode or earlier today, right? Yeah, and I thought, how
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah, it's new for me because it was just this past weekend when I was attuned to Reiki, and I'm just like blown away, truly blown away by what is possible. It's mind blowing, and cannabis with Reiki. I mean, like she loves it. She loves it. She's made it very clear that it's enjoyable, and then I just feel it all just comes together for me. I think that food is the vehicle to have at large people start to understand the beauty, the art, the medicine, the power of cannabis in the at large, because of course not everyone wants to smoke or can or vaporize or dab or whatever it is that we invent next that you can do with cannabis. You know, and taking the fear out of cooking, cannabis helps with taking fear out of the cooking because it just opens your mind and you get creative. You know, it's just
and sometimes
incredible.
you make some pretty crazy stuff when you're high.
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it's pretty genius. Other times maybe not, but you eat it anyway, and it's good because you have the munchies. But also, I've made a mistake on baking recipes, and you know, maybe shorted the ingredients or did a little bit too much, and actually had a couple happy accidents. So that's interesting. But you're right. Yeah, it's definitely like it's a gateway to creativity. It's a gateway to cerebral liberty, as we were speaking of earlier, right? Because a lot of people that are opening themselves up to cannabis, which is becoming mainstream, you know, the next step is this psychedelic revolution. So a lot of people are trying mushrooms, and I mean, call me a hippie, but I really do think that can affect world peace. Having mind expansion up at that level, that influential level. You know, think about when all of this comes commonplace, our politicians, look at that. Oh my goodness, that was good.
I really was hoping not to distract you, but yes, I just wanted to show because I'm definitely going to take a bite of this as we're wrapping up. But
what can I bite? I have this zucchini.
I love zucchini.
Yes,
yeah,
me too.
There's zucchini in here. So yeah, I'm about to take an absolute major bite of this and probably burn my mouth. Fortunately, I've become significantly more patient. However, there is a very long lineage of stubborn and impatient people in my family. When it comes to food, I can't help myself. I burn my tongue all the time. I'm amazed I can taste anything at all with how often, but you know, it looks really good. They are softer than I would have thought. So basically what I just need to do next time is use a little bit less liquid, and I would probably just use more quinoa because the quinoa is going to actually soak that up and dry that. But it definitely worked. It got nice and crispy.
Oh, it's
and
beautiful.
The slabs are melted on, and we're going to see how it all comes together.
Fruit slabs. Ooh, don't hurt yourself. It's hot, huh?
So hot. Wow, it's really good though. I have to say, of the fruit slabs, I used the Maui Wowie, which has a little bit of coconut. And when I decided that, I was like, is this a good idea? Coconut and mushrooms. But something spirit was like, no, 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 like trust, try it out, be bold.
Yeah,
And
it
it's
makes it
really good.
tropical. It's a tropical burger. Well, you
It
still
is.
call it a burger.
Yeah, it's a mushroom burger. I
Yeah,
mean, it looks like a burger. I feel like a burger is something that has its bread and there's like a patty, and the patty has stuff in it.
yeah,
This
it
just happens to
qualifies.
have cannabis. And you know, I'm as you know, I'm major into microdosing, so that's what I do. This is a 5-to-1 CBD to THC.
Okay,
So
good. That's
given how
great.
much I use, it's like actually very little THC in this. Usually I use more. Um, but ultimately I was feeling like, I don't know, I needed more CBD today. So
Yeah,
that's what we're going with. So what is next for you? Like, are you all in right now on this new project that sounds music related? Because we started talking
yeah.
about stadiums.
Actually, I forgot to say the name. It's called Awe. There's Awe Bar, Awe Ranch, and Awe Studios, which is a music studio. So you can see that's an expansive project. And like I said, I really hope these worlds can converge. And where they do converge is usually right now in the private realm. You know, restaurants can't infuse food. So the only way you are going to get a true cannabis infused experience is create one at home, which I always advocate people do. People ask me about that all the time. How can I cook with cannabis at home? And look at you, you are showing them how to do it. So all people do is turn in to watch you.
I'm making the effort, and I'm starting to offer private sessions and classes because I want people to understand you have so much intuition in you. And circling back to something that you were talking about much earlier in our conversation with the terpenes, our nose knows, our body knows what it needs. So the same way that we smell cannabis and it smells good to us, then those are the ones typically that are best for us. Then it's the same thing with your food and bringing it together. It's not as scary as it seems. Especially like I suck at math, for example, like dosing can be really difficult for me to figure out. So I always definitely starting low and going slow is always beneficial. But ultimately, you can figure it out. And that's part of what I also love about fruit slabs. 10 milligrams a square makes it real easy for me to know exactly what I'm using. Even if I choose to mince it up, I can really do major portion control. So,
Exactly. And now that we have testing and labeling that's a lot more reliable than it used to be, when you cook with cannabis at home with a product that's already tested and dosed, you can really control that. But then there's the other side of cooking with cannabis. Say you grew it yourself and you wanted to infuse your own food. That's when it really gets tricky with potency. You know, a lot of people shy away from eating cannabis because they've had a bad brownie experience 20, 40 years ago even. I still have people say, oh no, I'll never eat it because one time I ate a brownie, oh, and I only ate half of it. And I say, well, you never knew how many milligrams it was in the first place. Half of what? So clearly it's large dosing that an unknown dosing is what turns a lot of people off and they have a bad experience with cannabis. But now we know we can buy pre-tested, and there's even at-home test kit. It's called the T-Check, and you can make your own infusions at home and test the potency. You don't have to
I
take
would
it
love
to
to
a
do that.
laboratory anymore. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, I really advocate for people to grow it and use it themselves too. But especially if you're new to cannabis, you're gonna want to use products that are already dosed and you know exactly how many milligrams is going to end up being in which, you know, each cupcake. Like I was known as the cupcake girl for a little while. I would make 2 milligram cupcakes. So you could have multiple cupcakes. And it's so
You
cool.
get
Like
me.
there's a product called Shoogies that is medicated sugar. You know, it's great that we have these things now. Because people used to just not know at all. And then they end up like high for 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And now we know too, you can
Been
use
there.
CBD to counteract when you get too high. Yeah. And it's if you know that is maybe what happened to you, if you're on blood pressure medication, that's a problem. But otherwise it's like, probably just go to sleep. you know, don't trip out, because you know you can go down some crazy roads when you're super high. So I just try to tell people to keep that positive mental attitude, use this time for good, or go to sleep. And when you wake up, you'll be less high.
Yep. It's not, that's one of the wonderful things is it's not permanent. You can really just like survive that. And one day I would love to swap cannabis fail war stories because I have a couple from when I first got here. Two words, Korova Black, actually three. Korova Blackout Cookie.
Whoa, whoa, Korova.
I don't, even, I don't even think they're allowed to make that cookie anymore. That was like around the time when people were like, uh-oh, we're having a lot of issues with people getting like way too high and overdosing with edibles. And I just had, all I had was a tiny piece, like this big. I'll share this story offline. It was rough. So yeah, I absolutely love, and so appreciate all the contributions that you've made, that you will continue to make. And, you know, in my opinion, once in the industry, always in the industry. I also find like, I hear a lot of people like leaving the industry and coming back and leaving and then coming back. So, you know, I think what's most important is that we are passionate about this plant and having that access, and it's a beautiful medicine. We have this connection, and it makes an immediate bond with people when you understand that you see each other. And I understood that you got that right away, especially from the food component. I'd love to wrap up with one piece of guidance, love that you want to share specifically to women who want to thrive in the industry and deserve to have their seat. What would you like them to hear to light up their heart or to make the next best decision for them?
Well, I love to start with this is a female plant, and we talk about the female spirit. And I think that there's very much a place for women in this industry. And that's why I did co-found a chapter of Women Grow, because I felt like, hey, here's a new industry with no glass ceiling. And at one point in time, the female CEO percentage was calculated at 50%. I don't believe it's that case now, especially in California where we've legalized. That does tend to change. And I just say we have a place here, and actually who makes the most of the healthcare decisions in the home? Women. Who manages a lot of the finances of the home? Women. Who's more likely to be diagnosed with a autoimmune disease, or like I actually am immunocompromised too. Oh, and also I slid through COVID too. And there's just people in the cannabis industry that, I mean, they almost say it like a joke, like, oh, I'll be safe for weed. And then now it's crazy. There's a video going viral right now about certain cannabinoids in hemp. Anyhow, I think I got off track. What was the question?
No, you were on track. You answered it.
Okay.
You know, I was asking you to share a piece of love guidance to women who are interested either in getting in and thriving, because absolutely. And I always
so there's a lot of female consumers is what I was going at too. And who knows the female consumer better than females? So there's all kinds of women that are coming up with genius ideas, unique ideas in this cannabis space, which is it's a world of creativity. You can put cannabis on almost any orifice right now. Plus what's going to happen on the pharmaceutical side. So it's an exciting time, not just for women, but for everyone.
Absolutely. It absolutely is. I'm just, you know, I have a, so to speak, female past, even though I kind of don't refer to it as that way. I mean, it's just my life. At one point I realized that I wasn't, but I just feel so passionately about doing what I can to create space and uplift women in the space, because I also just think in general it is so important to have all the different beautiful dynamics that come from the mixture and balance of all of these energies and these experiences. I think it's time that we really understand that we're all better together than separate, and that separation is a total illusion in the truth of the meta experience of all.
the collective we.
Mm-hmm. The
Yeah.
collective we.
And I think we all
Thank
feel
you.
it more when
Mm-hmm.
when we connect too. And cannabis really helps you be in touch with yourself as well as each other and realize that we are not so different.
We're not.
We are
Really not.
connected, you know, we are the same. Yeah. So I encourage everybody, you know, it's try to have that balance that works for you with masculine and femininity, but try not to be too hard on one side or the other. And, you know, we can just appreciate the balance in all of us.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that the plant gives. And it's something that you've brought to the industry and to my life. So I'm really, really grateful that you agreed to do this. And it's like so nice to see you, even though I wish it was in person. So it will be eventually. One day it will, sooner than later, I hope. But I'm so happy to be virtually with you again. And I really hope that people follow you and pay attention to what you're doing. And I look forward to all of the events and the joy and the activism that we will do together and beyond. Would you please share with everyone, where can they get a hold of you if they want to have a private event? What is your favorite accounts to have them follow? Let them know the deals so that you can get, as you deserve, hired.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me on the show. Yeah, I can't even believe we haven't met in person yet. So if you would like a little more dose of Faerie Jane, I spell that Faerie Jane, Jane. And I am going to start a series of videos where I talk about my connection with cannabis, music. So music and Mary Jane is what I'm going to call the series. So I'll highlight certain strains and a certain song and maybe something personal about, you know, what that memory brings to me. And for those that want to check out the music venue that I work at, it's called Awe Bar, AWEBAR. And for those that are interested in high dining, that's our upscale low dose fine dining experiential company. That's HIGH dot, no, I'm sorry, no dot, HIGH dining.club. And yeah, that's about it. Oh, I'm also in the tourism space a little bit too, but I'll wrap it up.
No, you are. I mean, you do so many things. And I'm just, you know, no pun intended in this case, but I'm in awe, really, what you accomplish. And I feel wonderful being in your energy. And that is something that I do not take for granted. So thank you so much for being here. And I hope that you do get to enjoy the mushroom burgers because they're really good. I really enjoyed it. I'm like, as we hang up, I'm going to make more of these and post some pictures. But we're definitely going to have to bring you back on the show if you would like and have an update and talk about all the things that are to come. So thank you. And thank you to Fruit Slabs for sponsoring. Huge help. Again, you can go to fruitslabs.com, fruitslabscbd.com, and find out exactly where you can get your fruit slabs and enjoy them. Honestly, you could just snack on them all day. They're truly amazing. So with that said,
I love fruit slabs.
I'm glad that you've gotten to have them. They're truly an exceptional product. I mean, I could really speak at like incredible length as I have about fruit slabs. I don't, you know, I'm not getting paid. I'm getting product and love, and that's all I need from this because it's the medicine that I need and it's a joy to work with. So we will be back in the kitchen next week, the pre-show at 6:20 p.m. Pacific time. We will be here for the full show, episode 5 of the second season, here at 7 p.m. Pacific time, wherever you're watching this, all your favorite networks. And the replay will be up. Barbie, you're the best. I love you.
Love you
so much, unconditionally. And we will see you all very soon. Namaste, everyone. Love and light.